All right, time to take cover because there's some truth bombs coming your way, courtesy of my main man, Jesse Kelly, who is the host of I'm Right with Jesse Kelly on the First. Also, radio host down on KPRC Houston, a wonderful station that also airs yours truly. So, Mr. Kelly, not everyone else can see you, but we know that life is good for you and you continue to expand to the masses because now you feel comfortable dressing like Don Johnson from Miami Vice with the T-shirt and blazer.
Buck, everybody in this lifetime has these moments, where their whole life changed. You hear people talk about this all the time. I joined the service, or I had a kid, I got married, and you're like, oh, my life's totally changed after. My life has changed when I joined Team V-neck. Man, once I got on the V-neck T-shirt thing, I feel like a new person. See, you're hot right now, probably miserable. I feel like there's a breeze blowing through. Like my whole chest is exposed, and I'm living the free life.
Important as a radio host to be comfortable. I don't think anyone realizes what they've done for some of us now that so many of us don't have to be in an official studio where we see other human beings anymore. That sweatpants and pajama pants have replaced the section of my closet where I used to keep the suits. The men's like 3-piece suit, never happening again, dude. Weddings and funerals, maybe. That's it.
This is no joke. I'm walking out of the house this morning. It's so funny this comes up. This morning I'm walking out of the house and my wife looks at me and she says, please tell me you're not wearing that. I said, baby, it's radio. And when it comes to TV, I can take the shirt off and put something else on. Yes, I'm wearing that. I mean, it's ratty shorts, flip-flops. It's a disaster.
I got to tell you, all those people who stayed strong during the great cargo shorts shaming period of the last 10 years and who kept their cargo shorts in the closet, those things do look like crap, but man, are they comfortable. They're great. I'm wearing cargo shorts, not as much now because it's getting colder, but all summer, baby. The big pockets that I never use.
Yes, they're so convenient. Who doesn't want extra pouches? I mean, it's like having a fanny pack without having to endure the stigma of a fanny pack. But I'm almost 40. I'm rapidly approaching that age. I'm going to rock fanny pack too. I don't care. What do I care? I'm on Team V-neck.
Yeah, people also look at me like wearing high socks sometimes when I have shorts on. It's like I look like a camp counselor from the 1970s. And I was like, socks are meant to provide comfort and absorption. This is not a fashion statement.
Yeah, look, and you know what's really underrated? Socks in general. As I've gotten older, I've realized that my old man always used to lecture me. There are 3 things you never, ever, 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 ever go cheap on, ever. 1 is tires. You never go cheap on tires for any reason. 2, toilet paper. And 3, socks. You never go cheap on anything you put on your feet, socks or shoes. And since I've upgraded to like more than 50 cents per pair of socks, my whole life's different.
I would add sushi to your list, by the way, from personal experience. But yes, indeed, those are all very good. Those are all, Jesse doesn't even like sushi. All right, let's get into some real stuff here for a second. Although that was a lot of worthwhile life advice for everybody listening across the country.
It was.
Jesse, this week is ACB week. I'm analyzing it. I'm doing it. Look, she's going to get confirmed. Okay. I mean, the Democrats have got nothing, basically. They're going to whine about exactly what we thought they would. I'm actually a little bit surprised. I thought they had more in the tank. Maybe they're going to pull some last minute. I keep saying this. They're going to pull the Kavanaugh thing, which was everything was fine. And then at the last second, they had this ambush plan that clearly had been in the works for a long time. But the ACB stuff, okay, let's put that aside for a second. We got an election coming up. I feel like the single biggest issue in the country right now, because it determines the economy, it determines your individual freedoms of all kinds, are these lockdowns. And there's more data coming out all the time to just show that these lockdowns, it's one thing to say, Jesse, and I think this would be fair to say was your position very early on. I would say it was my position very early on that even if lockdowns work somewhat, the catastrophic cost needs to always be weighed against what you're doing here. And it didn't seem like it was worth it to me. Now there's more and more evidence when you actually look at the data that this was actually just a self-imposed wound with minimal to no upside. And I don't know why everyone should be making this case. I'm not hearing it.
Here's what's amazing about it, Buck, is you're 100% right. And they're going to study America 500 years from now, 1,000 years from now, like we do with all great empires. We'll go down as a big empire, and they're going to study the country. What we've done with coronavirus will be studied by historians. Because I don't know that there's any precedent in the history of the world for what we've done. We've taken these measures that have financially cost trillions and trillions of dollars. And that, honestly, trillions doesn't actually put the real number on what this is going to cost down the road. We have very likely collapsed our financial system because of this stuff, while at the same time doing things that didn't help at all. So we gained absolutely nothing. Talk about the worst risk assessment in the history of mankind. We've gained absolutely nothing, while at the same time cutting our legs out from under us. I've never seen anything like it before. We have countries around the world. I know the media can act like they don't exist. We have examples around the world of countries that are doing just fine, who didn't have these lockdowns, who everybody isn't wearing a mask. And then you have us. We have completely gutted our financial system over this. And the pain is still to come. It's amazing.
Jesse, I see that the data on schools has started to come out now, more robust data, longer term data. And I remember in August, there was this whole effort in the media to suggest that opening schools was going to result in, let's be very clear, a lot of kids were going to die, and people who were saying there should be in-person learning were being reckless and political and anti-science. The data now shows unequivocally that people, under the age of 13, so let's say kindergarten through 8th grade, are at effectively zero risk, meaning more of them die every year from other communicable diseases in our school system than have died from COVID in the first 2 months of school opening. So those people who were saying that school opening was going to be this human sacrifice experiment were completely wrong. Why isn't anyone saying, hey, they were all wrong? How have we just moved past this? It feels like we have these furious debates, and then finally we get to see who's right, and then nothing changes, and the people who are wrong just keep going on like they know what the hell they're talking about.
Buck, we've not only done this to kids, and by the way, I have 2 well-adjusted kids. I mean, as well-adjusted as you can be with me as a father. I've watched, especially my oldest, struggle with some of this idiotic school stuff. And those are kids who have 2 loving parents in the home. We've wrecked these freaking kids for the future. We've wrecked the mental well-being of this country with the alcohol and drug abuse. No one talks about the suicide hotlines, how they're overwhelmed with phone calls. And to the point you just pointed out, where's the accountability for all the doomsday prophets? I mean, I remember very clearly, I'm sure you do, I was told that I hate grandma and I hate old people and I want this old person to die and that old person to die and I'm a heartless monster. Okay, fine. It doesn't bother me. Are you going to stand up now as the country's in bankruptcy and say something? If you were a doomsday prophet telling everybody millions are going to die and we have to do this, where is your accountability when all these businesses are wiped out? We're losing half our GDP. Our small businesses are being wiped out. Let's not even talk about the hospitality industry, the airline industry, the commercial real estate industry. I work in the studio that's a high-rise here in Houston. I used to have to struggle to find a parking spot in the multi-level parking garage. I park every single morning now when I get to the studio and there are 3 other cars in the entire floor, and that's not made up. I can park wherever I want. That's what we've done to this country. What do you think that's doing to commercial real estate and then the banks down the road?
Yeah, well, I think people need to understand that a lot of what we're doing right now is almost like paying all of your bills with a credit card when you have an empty checking account. You can do that, you can keep doing it. You can keep on running the tab up. But eventually the bill comes due, and whether it's these financial measures or, as you point out, the social impacts of what we've been doing, people say, oh, Buck, but I don't hear that many stories about drug overdose, or I don't hear that many stories about drug abuse, which, I mean, the numbers on that, I'm sure, are going to be mind-boggling during this period. And what I always want to say to them is, yes, because the people that should be covering that and compiling that information and telling those stories are all completely invested in telling everybody, forget what's happening forget the fact that Europe has had schools open this whole time, basically. I mean, most European countries never shut down schools, ever, in the entire pandemic. And they've had a lot of deaths in countries like Italy and Spain and Germany and Brussels and France. I mean, they've never shut down. Forget all that. The people that are supposed to bring us the stories of what the costs are from this are completely invested in making sure everyone stays terrified.
Yep.
And they know this is clear. They said that when the president says, don't let this dominate your life, the media's resounding response was, no, let it dominate your life.
Mm-hmm. And remember, this is the saddest part. This part is sad. I don't want to bring everybody down. We were supposed to be better. We're America. We don't do what other countries do. This was, it's not just sappy patriotism. This is the land of the free. This is where people who want to take big risks and be free come. And you come here because you can risk it all and make it big and lose big. And that's what America is supposed to be. And we turn into less than Europe? I mean, let's be fair here. What these lockdowns, these masks, all these other things, these things did not come about without the consent of the governed. These governors and mayors, and let's be frank, the Trump administration at the very beginning, locked down, go home. And you know what we all did? Oh, okay. This governor steps up and says, shut down your business, shut down your business. Oh, okay, Mr. Governor, I'll do what you tell me. Just don't get mad. That's not America, and those aren't Americans, and we're going to pay for that for a long time.
This has been a massive experiment in government incremental tyranny, and this country has failed it miserably. We went from 2 weeks.
The ultimate stress test, and we failed.
Yeah, as soon as we agreed to go hide in our homes for 2 weeks because of this, what seemed like this reasonable request. Okay, fine, we're just getting ready for it and everything else. And then as soon as we all agreed, okay, we'll go stay in our homes, then it was just, well, stay there longer. Stay there longer. Don't come out yet. We'll tell you when. Here are all these other rules. Here are all these other regulations. Just stay at home. I mean, it was really as though we had war gamed out a slippery slope to the government being able to tell you all the things that it now does. Where you can go. Does the First Amendment apply? Can you worship in church or synagogue or mosque? Can you open your business? Can you see your friends? All of these things, we've just handed it over to people like Governor Cuomo, who is a straight up moron, by the way. And I talk about this, and I'll tell you, look, Jesse, I've been disappointed. I have a lot of conservatives who are like, you talk about masking too much. You talk about lockdowns too much. And I want to scream and say, don't you realize this is the most important issue in the country right now? Nothing else is even close. ACB, this is all blah, blah, blah. People that are sitting there saying, just look at your watch. Any minute now, we're going to find out about the deep state or whatever. Garbage. Meaningless. This matters more than all of those other things, but no one seems to care.
All that other stuff, you're 100% right. All that other stuff you just mentioned will be forgotten like that. I wasn't exaggerating, Buck. 1,000 years from now, they'll be writing about what you just talked about. They will write about the fall, the same way we analyzed the fall of Rome with the Vandals pounding on the city gates and stuff. They will talk about coronavirus and the fall of the United States of America. They will. It will be part of history because I've never seen national suicide like this in my entire life for a virus with 99.7% survival rate. It's if you were to tell somebody this at any other point in history, that's what we're going to lock down a country and destroy our economy. Why? Oh, because there's a virus that's 99.9% of you are going to survive. They would have laughed in your face. They would have thought you were joking with them. We did it. The land of the free, the most powerful country in the world. We did it. We did that. And look what we've done.
Yeah, no, we all, as long as the stores are stocked with mac and cheese and ice cream, and we've got Netflix, Hulu, and ESPN Classic Sports to rifle through, and our social media accounts to yell at each other. A lot of people are like, yeah, whatever, fine. I'll get my check one way or the other, and who cares? And unfortunately, we're seeing the end results of that right now. I also think people need to understand that at least Trump will try to take us out of this. Biden's going to lock us down much deeper. I think everyone's realized that now. I've been saying it for a while. Biden's not going to just open everything up to make things better. No, they like this situation of control. They're going to use it to their advantage. Before we let you go, Jesse, I just want to know what you make of this CDC study making the rounds right now, that of all coronavirus cases in the U.S. in July, 85% of the people who were positive, according to the CDC, said they either always or almost always wore a mask under all circumstances of interaction with other people. What are we supposed to make of that? 85%.
I think the most absurd lie people tell themselves over and over again, and they always have, is that doctors know what they're doing. The truth is doctors are just like school teachers. The profession itself is given an amount of respect because of what they do, but most of them, even the highly accomplished ones, are completely useless. One or two good ones will completely change your life for the better, but most of the time doctors are useless. They used to give people heroin for colds. They used to give children mercury enemas. Doctors are always learning, always finding out the thing they did previously murders everybody. The French, when they were building the Panama Canal, had trouble with mosquitoes. They used to put bowls of water underneath the patients' beds because they didn't know what was going on. Doctors are morons. And we were told by all these doctors, oh, I'm a doctor, you have to listen to me. These freaking idiots don't know what they're talking about. Yeah, put a whole society in a mess. That's genius. That sounds like something a 3-year-old would come up with.
As somebody who's been to a doctor before, to have something looked at on his forehead, to be told by one that it was dry skin and another that it looks like it might be cancer. Yeah. Yeah. I got to tell you, Jesse.
Of course.
Go ask 3 dermatologists what that rash on your elbow is, and then come back and tell me about how we should all, mask up because of the science. Jesse Kelly, everybody. I'm Right with Jesse Kelly is the show. Also check him out down on KPRC Houston and the Jesse Kelly Show. Jesse, my man, so good to have you on. Thanks for joining.
Be good, brother.
Just remember, everybody, that the Democrats are promising you everything's going to get so much better. So much better if you elect Joe Biden to be senator? Play 23.
We have to come together. That's why I'm running. I'm running as a proud Democrat for the Senate.
Look, I almost can't blame the guy. When you've been running for the same Senate seat for so many decades and just going through the usual routine, blue collar Joe riding the train, the choo-choo with all the blue collar folks, just trying to take care of the working class, and I'm a good Democrat, and the whole spiel, right? The whole thing. When you're that guy, it's tough to expect you to all of a sudden change it up. It's asking a lot to think that someone at that stage is all of a sudden going to have something new to say. But there are these photos you're seeing of the Biden gatherings or rallies, and there's nobody there. And I know that Republicans keep pointing this and saying, see, look at the Trump rallies. And the Trump rally last night in Sanford, Florida was like the old rallies in 2016. But these Democrats, I told you the data on the separation between fears over COVID between left and right. I mean, Democrats are terrified of COVID and Republicans are not, or at least a lot of Republicans are not, and almost all Democrats are. So I think there's reason to believe there's a silent majority out there, but I would not, if I were you, expect that the rally size that we're seeing on the Biden side of things, they believe that not showing up at the rally is how they show support for Biden. I know that sounds crazy and like it's very self-justifying, but I'm just telling you, I'm surrounded by Democrats. Thank God they don't know what I do for a living. I'm surrounded by Democrats here in New York City, and the COVID precautions now are an enormous virtue signal all the time, and also a political signal. You're a Democrat because you take it seriously.
It's time for Roll Call.
Roll call to be a part of our action here. Facebook.com/Buck Sexton. Team Buck at iHeartMedia.com. And you can also send us messages on Instagram. Producer Mark will check it out. Let's get to it. Peter writes, Buck, you mentioned the series The Mentalist on Friday. The Mentalist is about a psychic con man who helps the FBI. He is not a psychiatrist. If you're looking for a good series, I highly recommend it. And with maybe the exception of the last year when I believe they were looking for a way to end the series and jump the shark. But the first 6 series are worth the time. Yeah, no, sure. I know. I think I was referring to The Mentalist just as one of these shows where there's a guy who understands psychology or something and, solves the crimes. So, yeah. But if it's a good series, I might be able to check it out. I love Bosch. I'm on season 4 now, I think, or 3. Bosch is really good. And it's just the first series I've seen in a long time that shows more of Los Angeles. So for our KEIB listeners, I'm learning cool stuff, about the Venice canals and seeing it. I've been to LA a lot, but I haven't even experienced that historic, a lot of downtown. I've never been to downtown LA. I've only been on what they call the West Side, which would be Santa Monica and Beverly Hills and Venice Beach and Manhattan Beach, all that stuff. So I've been up in the Valley a lot, which is a place. You ever been to the Valley, producer Mark?
I've never been to L.A.
The Valley is like the Long Island of Los Angeles. That's what I would say. So there's some very nice stuff, but it's like a kind of an area with a lot of commuters going into L.A. And yeah, that's what I'd say about the Valley. So, but it's not an island; it's a valley, obviously.
I feel like you're right, though. Most cop crime shows take place in New York.
Yes.
The ones in L.A.
Yes. A lot of the crime stuff is New York City, just because you have the backdrop, the tapestry of New York City with its very different neighborhoods and feel and all that stuff. But, yeah, no, L.A., there used to be more L.A. stuff. I feel like all movies, because Hollywood, obviously, movies in the 80s and 90s, so much of it was filmed in and around the Los Angeles area, so that but it was filmed on lots a lot of the time. Bosch is cool because they show you actual LA. They show you stuff in Los Angeles, and they shoot scenes on site instead of everything is like a Warner Brothers sound studio, because there's a lot of that.
Don't they have enough traffic in L.A.? They need to close down streets to shoot shows?
Well, they have a lot more space, though. So there's that. But yeah, no.
Whenever they do it in the city and it closes down.
The reason I could never live in LA just because of the traffic. That's it. Wouldn't do it. Couldn't do it. Wouldn't do it. As a result of that, that's all. It's just not for me. I'm not a car. Like, I have a brother who's a car enthusiast, loves German engineering and BMWs and all this stuff, and has done race car training just for fun, and he loves cars. He enjoys cars. I'm just like, I'm one of these people that if I could get into a car and press a button and take a nap, and it would just take me there, I'd be totally happy. I have no interest in like revving the motor and using the clutch and all that. I don't care at all.
Yeah, I'm the same way. If it turns on and gets me from point A to point B, cool.
Yep. Joe, here we go. Buck, I've been a daily listener for nearly a year now. Actually, late evening in Melbourne, Florida. Hey, that's great, Joe. On the podcast as well, when I need to catch up or I'm traveling. I'm a 74-year-old Vietnam vet, very conservative. Listen to a great deal of talk radio these days and consider myself to be somewhat liberal before Reagan, and solidified my conservative philosophy after I began to listen to Rush in 1991. No one can top Rush, of course, but even the best of things must come to an end someday. Hate to think of that when Rush will retire. It's comforting to know, though, that Buck Sexton will be there to take up that mantle when it does happen. I know of no one else who is more suitable and qualified. Well, Joe, you just made my day. That's the nicest thing anyone said to me all day and probably all week, maybe all month. So thank you very much for that. And do you even be spoken of in the same sentence as the great Rush Limbaugh? I mean, you're being compared to the greatest. So, or being, I should say, just spoken of in the same sentence as the greatest, not even being compared to. So that's very encouraging and very kind of you, and I appreciate that. And we'll continue to do the best show we can here every day. But I think Rush has got another 10 years in him before he's going to say, all right, I'm going to play golf. The guy's a fighter, and he's the greatest that's ever been in this game. Maureen, love your show, Buck and producer Mark. I listen daily. So based on what Governor Whitmer says, that any negative mention of her causes threats to her well-being, will she now champion the left to stop all of their hate speech against Trump, since she says negative words increase personal threats, and she's so against that? Will she rally the left to denounce BLM's vile rhetoric and violence, since she's so against personal threats? I hope her false accusations about Trump and her hypocrisy is noticed and gets her voted out whenever she's up for re-election. Thanks for all you and producer Mark do. Maureen, thank you so much for writing in. I think I can answer your question. No, Governor Whitmer will not reach out to the left and say, hey, guys, maybe we should stop being violent, or we should stop the threatening words and saying that Trump is a tyrant. Because what do you do with tyrants? If you're a patriot, do you sit around and just allow the tyrant to continue the tyranny, or do you take action of some kind? What do you do if you're in a country where you're allegedly suffering under fascism? Do you just accept that, or do you take action to end the fascism? Again, in some way, maybe it's at the ballot box, but fascism doesn't always lend itself to being eradicated at the ballot box, does it? This is rhetoric that has consequences. These are words that are used by the left that come with a cost. I don't think that they'll ever accept, though, that these days the left is particularly emotionally driven and unhinged and prone to outbursts and to violence. They won't accept that because they view it as damaging. Remember, leftists, Democrats, I'll use these terms interchangeably because I think they are pretty interchangeable, but leftists view politics as a form of personal branding. So when someone asks me, are you a conservative? And I say yes, and they say, why? I'll explain that, well, because this is how I approach life, and this is my philosophy, and these are the different issues that I have, and here are areas where I think I'm not certain that I have the right answer, but I'm still thinking about it, and I perhaps lean right. For the left, it's I'm a liberal because I'm a good person, a smart, good person who's cool. That's it. And that's really one of the greatest advantages the Democratic Party has, is that all you have to do is sign up, and you're magically a better person all of a sudden. I don't think that I'm a better person because I'm conservative. I just think I'm right on more stuff. But I'm also open to changing my mind on stuff if I think that it turns out that I was wrong about something. That's not the same thing. It's not, well, I'm a conservative, so I'm better than all the libs out there. I'm a nicer, kinder, more reliable person than all the libs out. I mean, that probably is true, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, that's not how we view things. But there is a very clear association the Democrat Party has created with just voting Democrat and having attributes that are supposed to then fall upon you, right? You're handed these things. So there we go. Don, Shields High, I follow your podcast regularly. You, Bongino, Owens, and Rob Smith are the new frontline combatants for us conservatives. Well, thank you, Don. I'm in great company there. I think you mean Candace Owens and Rob Smith. I'm betting that if Biden does win, the bookmakers over-under on him remaining in office will be 31 days. Stay strong. Love your message. Well, thank you, Don. I think that Biden will not last past his... I think he'll be done by the midterms. I think that just to make it seem a little less obvious that this was the plan all along, he's got to make it to the midterms. That's going to be their plan that they put into place. But I do not see him going for 8 years. No way. And then think about what that would do to the country. But here's the truth. If you had to pick, folks, if you had to have somebody who was taking a lot of power and using it beyond the boundaries of the Constitution, beyond the framework of the founders, would you rather have it be Biden or Kamala? Biden scares me less than Kamala does. I'm just going to say it. I think Kamala is a ideological leftist who poses as a moderate. I think Biden at his core is a transactional moderate who will pose as palatable to the far left. That's how I see it. I mean, we'll have to wait and watch how this plays out. And like I've been telling you all along, I don't think we're going to have if it's Trump, if it's the Democrat winner, then I think Trump will concede and we play by the rules, and that will be a sad day, but we'll pick ourselves up. We'll be fine. If Trump loses, guys, we're going to rally, and they want to see what hashtag resistance looks like. They better get ready for what's going to come their way when they try to enforce their idiot socialism on all the rest of us. But if Trump is the winner as of election night, but they won't, I'm telling you my prediction, and I want to be very clear so that when we get there, they will not concede. They're not going to concede. They're going to drag this thing out and fight and fight and fight and abuse the process and kick at the load-bearing walls of our political system with a sledgehammer, not just with their feet. I mean, they're going to take swings and see what they can do. That's my prediction. Remember it, friends, because you remember that prediction I made about how no one's going to prison and nothing's going to happen with the Durham report? Looking pretty good right now, isn't it? Let's just say, hey, got to give credit where it's due, including to the Buckster. All right, more roll call. Kyle up. Buck. Mayor Quimby's voice is based on Kennedy accent and lifestyle, while Chief Wiggum is based on Edward G. Robinson. If you Google the name, it'll click. Think of a Prohibition-era gangster holding a Tommy gun and the voice he would make. That's Wiggum. The first 10 years of The Simpsons was pure 80s and 90s era gold. The other 20 years aren't worth watching. Producer Mark, how much of The Simpsons have you watched?
I used to watch all the time when I was younger. I know the old episodes are still classics, but I just learned recently that they're still making new episodes. Who knew?
Oh, yeah. I watched in the 90s and thought it was very funny.
Everyone, it's a cultural icon, The Simpsons. It's
Yeah.
just, well, why has it gone on so long?
I remember watching The Simpsons in the 90s, and one of my favorite characters was Dr. Nick. Do you remember? Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Nick.
I love Dr. Nick. He was hilarious.
He was great. Dr. Nick was great. That was and then there was who was the very fancy sounding, not Krusty the Clown, but the was it Sideshow Bob, right?
Sideshow Bob, yes, the one who always tried to kill Bart.
Kelsey Grammer, right? Voicing Sideshow Bob. Yes, I remember that. And then it was Krusty the Clown, and there's a whole thing. Krusty. It's like a little more cigarette smoking from Dr. Fauci, and he'd sound a little bit more like Krusty. Yeah. So anyway, The Simpsons used to be great. I have no idea what it's like anymore. I know they got rid of a bunch of characters because of wokeness, which means it's probably not nearly as funny as it used to be. Which is also why there are no funny movies made anymore, because nothing's allowed to be funny anymore. Movies now that are supposed to be funny are all either making fun of people who are accessible political targets, so on the right, Christians, white males, or they are just really scatological. Just a lot of, I can't even tell you. I had the experience with my siblings. We were away at a house for the weekend over the summer, and we were trying to watch some comedy, and we went through all these Netflix specials on comedy, and just one after another were horrible. We couldn't get through 5 minutes. So much of it was just throw a bunch of curse words, talk about something gross, and have everyone go, ew. It's like, that's not a joke. It's not clever. But comedy has been destroyed because comedy often involves pointing out something that is somewhat or sometimes true that pokes fun at something, someone, some group, and you're not allowed to do that anymore. Not allowed to do that anymore. No one's allowed to laugh at things. I mean, maybe you could get away with making like Irish people drinking too much jokes. Maybe. I don't know. The actual Irish in Ireland are very left-wing. The Irish in this country are way more copacetic.
That's why Bill Burr got a lot of heat this weekend.
What happened?
He was on SNL. He did a monologue. I think he went after woke white women. And, there was outrage everywhere.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. See, that's what happened. But he was trying to be, he's a comedian. He's a real comedian. He was trying to be a real comedian. Not allowed. Not allowed. Nothing's funny anymore. It's a shame. It's a shame because humor is such an important part of life. And really, one of the easiest ways to get people that have a sense of humor are just so much easier to get along with. It's like it's a mentality. It's an approach to life. Can you find things? Can you laugh at yourself, and can you find things funny easily? Or is everything just, it's all so serious all the time? Here we go. But as for, I'll listen to Mayor Quimby and try to get a better version of the Kennedy, yes, you, ich bin ein Berliner, that whole thing. I'll try to figure that out. Jenna writes, please try and do a Dracula History Shields High by Halloween. All of the monsters this season beholds. His story is my favorite. From Bram Stoker to Lestat, he is Halloween for the ages. Zombies, witches, Frankenstein. Don't hold a candle to the Prince of Darkness. This is from Gina, by the way. I think I might have said Jenna. Gina, do what you can. We love all your efforts, Shields High. Thank you, Gina. Look, I think it'd be fun. I'm going to sort of redo some of the old, less formal versions of Shields High where I already have the research and the knowledge from reading books and taking notes in the past. So Dracula Vlad Dracul certainly falls into that category. And I think it ties in also to the period that I'm so fascinated with, which is really the Christian Ottoman wars of the 15th and 16th century. If I could teach a college class, the first one would be on propaganda to teach all the kids about why the news and how the news lies to them and molds their minds without them realizing it. That would be good. Taught by an ex-CIA guy, probably be a pretty popular class, let's be honest. And then the other class I would want to teach would be Ottoman Christian warfare in the 15th and 16th century, just because it's fascinating and I love it. So that's also why we have one Shields High already done on Malta. Malta Part 2 is coming up. We got Dracula. We'll do a Lepanto Part 1 and Part 2. And I kind of want to do a Siege of Vienna 1 and Siege of Vienna 2. And then I think we're going to get to a different period in history. Maybe we go ancient Greek, or we just pick battles. I know there are podcasts out there that pick the biggest battles, but I'll just do that based on the ones that I really like. And I might even have a show or two or do a podcast where I invite some friends to also love history to sit around and chat with me about it. I've thought about that. So there's a lot of things in the works, friends. Make sure you pass the buck so that everyone can hear it. Thanks for being here with me. Back tomorrow, same time, same place. Shields high.